No. Remember when they traded for Russell Wilson, how exciting that was?
Yeah, because Russell Wilson said that they were going to win a ton of championships, much like LeBron said when he took his talents to South Beach, except for they ended up winning.
So what happened?
Well, I think, you know what?
The way you say it so seriously is such a giant middle finger.
It's true, though.
No, because I was serious. You know, so there is a guy that works for ESPN who's a true historian, who, when I said that Russell Wilson wasn't an all-time great and that you can't just plug Russell Wilson into an offense and now you get instantaneous energy and explosiveness and a Super Bowl champion, he sent me a ton of text over the weekend. That guy's name was Dan Graziano. He sent me all of the stats. He sent me everything that he'd ever done. He sent me the reasons why he was such an all-time great and like Russell Wilson was all of these things. Well, we found out that Russell Wilson can't just be plugged in. That Russell Wilson just doesn't come in and change your team right away. Yeah. And so now you have a guy like Nathaniel Hackett that everyone is looking at and saying, okay, it must be your fault because we've seen Russell Wilson for a decade be one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. The problem is this team didn't play with Russell Wilson in Seattle. These players, these coaches, these executives, these owners, they don't know that guy. All they know is what they've gotten. And to them, they've been sold a bill of goods that were not delivered. Yeah. And so Russell Wilson, when you're looking at where he's taken this team now, how do you get out of it? Talking about what the Denver Broncos can be the rest of the year or trying to break down what happened yesterday is stupid, right? That has nothing to do with anything because this is about the future. Okay. The future you mortgaged to get Russell Wilson. I don't want to play with this guy. Yeah. I want someone who can come out and be authentic, who can lay it on the line and say, you know what? This is about me. Yeah. This is about me not doing what I thought I was going to do or what I thought I was capable of doing. Yeah. Now, how do I fix it? I get that he said he let them down. He said we've had some good moments. No, y'all haven't. No. You said you've had some in between. No, you haven't. All the moments have been bad, and that starts with Russell Wilson.
They should bench Russell. Just listen.
Can't do that.
Yes, you have to.
You can't do that, Dan.
He needs to be done this year mentally. Yesterday was such a disaster. You talked about it, and we just saw the clip, like him being on the sidelines, holding the football, down 45 points.
That's him.
But they got to give him like the mental reset and move on from this season. This season has been an abject disaster. This guy has gone from Hall of Famer to you have to be on the bench. That's what's best for. And here's this, and I know what I'm about to say. I don't think it's outrageous to think, do we have to just move on from Russell Wilson?
He's going to be the quarterback at Denver next year.
But why?
He has to be. Because it's a $107 million dead money hit.
Okay, but here's my point. Here's my point. First of all, you can't stay status quo going into
Somebody got to go.
That's right. So what coach wants that job?
None.
Okay,
Zero.
so you have to find a coach that you can sit there and unquestionably say, this guy can fix Russell Wilson. But by the way, is he the best guy for the job for the team? Also, you have no draft capital to go fix the situation.
Right.
Yeah.
Seattle has their pick. So be like the number 3 pick.
So your football team's not going to be great anyway, unlikely, right? Unless a miracle happens. So why not sit there and go, man, we made a mistake, and whether the cost ramifications are what they are, see if you could rebuild for 3 years from now.
Rex, how do you think they fix this in Denver?
Well, I think Russell Wilson's not going anywhere, number one, at least next year for sure. But it's got to be, I mean, Nathaniel Hackett, I said week 1 was not going to be the coach, all right, after this year. You got brand new ownership. They never chose this guy. They inherited this, all right? And quite honestly, this team plays with no passion, no energy, and, yeah, they don't have a plan for their quarterback. They're putting a square peg in a round hole. You got to come back. You have to bring in somebody that's going to bring some kind of energy and passion, and immediately when he talks, that whole team listens. And that's what you got to bring into that building. Have the courage to bring in somebody with that kind of characteristic in there. And not just be a yes man for the GM. You got to have somebody come in there that owns the damn locker room. Because this team right now, I see them fighting each other more than I see them fighting the opponent. And that can't be. You got to have somebody is familiar with Russell Wilson, whether that's an offensive coordinator or whoever. That's what you got to get. I love it. The first name everybody says is Sean Payton's going to do it. Yeah, that would be a great hire because, yes, that would be the type of guy that can bring that kind of energy, that kind of synergy to the building. Unfortunately, he's not taking this job. All right, and the reason he's not taking it because he doesn't want to play against Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert. He's not going to win that division. He wouldn't be the best coach in that division. All right, where Andy Reid would be. He's going to end up going to some place where he can be the man. All right, and win immediately. He's not taking Denver. All right, he doesn't have the courage to take the Denver Broncos, in my opinion. He's smart. He's going to have different options out there. But somebody like that can get in front of that team and immediately control the entire locker room. That's what they need to bring in. Nathaniel Hackett, no offense, everybody was politicking, oh, he really knows football. Yeah, well, guess what? Here's what I know. He ain't got the voice. That locker room ain't listening. All right, you give up 50 points.
The other piece, the new coach wouldn't have to
real quick.
Yeah,
but the new coach like Joe Montana. I'm sorry, that ain't cutting it. There's going to be drastic changes there, and it's going to happen Monday, the day after the season.
The only thing I would say this, the new coach wouldn't have to placate to Russell Wilson. He would be able to coach Russell Wilson as another guy in that locker room. Yeah. And I think that is what he would need in order to fix some of the things that have been going on this year.
Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.